Welcome to God Answers Prayer. I'm Linda Tiano. We're glad to have you with us today. And as we begin the day today, I want to start with Isaiah chapter 54, verses 1 through 4. And that verse says, "Sing, barren woman who has never had a child. Burst into song. Shout for joy, you who have never been in labor. For the deserted wife will have more children than the woman who is living with her husband, says Adonai. Enlarge the space for your tent. Extend the curtains of your dwelling. Do not hold back. Lengthen your cords. Make your tent pegs firm. For you will spread out to the right and the left. Your descendants will possess the nations and inhabit the desolated cities. Don't be afraid, for you won't be ashamed. Don't be discouraged, for you won't be disgraced. You will forget the shame of your youth and no longer remember this dishonor of being widowed." There are many parents who are in a quandary on what course is needed for their children to receive an education that lines up with the Word of Yahweh. Our children are our most precious possession in that we are charged with bringing them up in the ways of Adonai. Dominique Winguard has traveled that road and has a story to share about how God answered her prayers, and He will answer yours too. We'll be right back after this. Well, welcome back. We're here with Dominique Winguard. It's good to have you.
Thank you so much for having me on.
I'm excited. You know, I know that back during the lockdown,
The time of which we speak of.
yeah,
Yes.
and you know, and schools were closed.
Oh, yeah.
People couldn't, you know, they didn't know what to do with their kids at home a lot. My husband and I were doing, he was running for office, and we were doing once a week we did a Facebook Live. And our real focus was try homeschooling. And so we interviewed a lot of homeschool moms in the process of that. So I just want to find out a little bit more about you, because you are a homeschool mom.
I am. Yeah, very unexpectedly.
Well, so tell us about yourself. Where did you grow up?
Well, I was born in California, but we moved here when I was about 7. And then I've lived here off and on ever since then. So traveled around a few places and been some places, but ended up staying here. When I met my husband, we talked about kids, and we talked about finances, and we talked about dreams and priorities, and their family's really into education, and they very much value that. And so we were talking about, well, what does that mean to you? And so we kind of had to go through that process of, well, I think I know what education means. And I just put out, look, I'm not insisting that we have to homeschool. I just want to put out there that it really matters to me to be a part of the process. Whether we go to, you know, a private Christian school or a charter school, I'll be that mom in the library signing up and reading books once a week and, you know, being in the classroom. And he loved that. He was like, I'm so glad that you said that, because he's like, I didn't want to insist that you stay at home. You know, I want to do this as a team with you. But my mom stopped her career, paused it for the first 5 years of our lives. And I was hoping that my wife would do the same. And he's like, it sounds like you want that to be your career. And I was like, I am so glad that you're not insisting I need to go out and get another job on top of it. I would really want the home to be my primary job. And so from that point, it's been a lot of learning. We've been learning what that means for us, because every homeschool is unique, as you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously your background for both of you, you both came from Christian homes.
Yes, we did.
So when you met, were you both believers?
So we were both believers, yes. We did have a conversation of like, well, then what does that really mean to you, right? And so I would say both of our parents have more of a conservative background, but my husband and I still needed time to figure out, what do we mean by Jesus? Are we praying to Yeshua, or are we praying to Jesus Christ? Like, well, it's the same person, but we had to talk about, I'm not familiar with your Hebraic background or in Catholic background. I'm not familiar with your other denomination background. How do we do this? And so that was a really good conversation to have, and because we are both speaking to the same God. It was, oh, let's go deeper together. Let's find out what is his name? Who does he say he is? And therefore, who are we then because of who he says we are? And so we're coming up on 10 years now, and that we just look back on it going, so much time has passed like that, and we are growing together. It wasn't my way, it wasn't his way, it was definitely how God is teaching us to do our way together, right? Yeah, it's really a threesome, but in a biblical sense.
So you mentioned the Hebraic, which is basically returning to the roots of our faith, biblically. And didn't you find that you went deeper because of that?
Oh, yeah.
Emotionally, spiritually, love, everything, right?
Right, love, completely. In fact, you talk about a lot of terminology. That was something I feel like I personally had to heal from. I had to learn and get some counseling as far as how does forgiveness work? Because you start to realize things have been translated inappropriately. We use the same English word for 4 different other original Hebrew or Greek words, like love, right? We don't have a concept in English for some of these things that are biblical, and so we've interpreted them and made them into dogma that separate and divide us instead of understanding. Jesus was talking about love. He was telling us to go back uniting, abide, be humble, do justice, walk humbly, love mercy. Can't do one without the other. And so that's been definitely a process. And for me to have grown up desiring to learn our Hebraic roots and just really where the Bible's really coming from throughout the ages, that has been a journey to learn how to forgive. And because either it's like translators before that didn't do it right, or pastors that taught dogma, or mentors that told you, hey, you're going to have long life and good blessing if you honor and respect your parents and do all these things. But then as a child, you don't really understand what that means. You think, if I disagree, that's disrespecting, right? Or that sort of thing. And so I think I really got the best end of both worlds, where I got to experience what it's like with people who get it wrong, or people who see very tunnel visioned and are afraid, really, to explore their faith and really mature in that. But my parents, even though they had to deal with their own insecurities and fears with God, they also said often, we want you to be able to come with us. And so there was a time, actually, when I turned 15 or so, 14, 15, 16, somewhere in there, and I came to them and was like, I do have questions, even though we've gone in deep. I knew how to use a concordance, and I knew how to talk with seminary professors, and we had memorized a lot of scripture together, and they had made the Bible not a part of the curriculum, but the center of our curriculum. And so our relationship with God was sincere, but I still had questions. And by that time, when you're starting to hit adulthood, a young adulthood, right, I said, okay, I'm making an announcement. And I remember which restaurant we were at, and I just told my parents, I'm an atheist now.
Oh, wow.
I know. The shock on their faces, mid-bite. They're just like, say again? So I had to clarify and say, I don't think that you took me down a path on purpose that was wrong. I think you've done well. But I need to know for myself. And God gave so much grace in that moment and gave them the words to say, because who as a parent wants to hear, okay, I'm drastically changing religions, But they encouraged me, and they said, all right, will you just let us be a part of the process? Come to us anytime you have questions, and we'll be praying for you.
Wow.
I know.
That's amazing.
It is amazing, right? That takes a lot of faith.
Because their hearts were probably like, oh.
I know, exactly. And I was going through a lot. I mean, I'd seen hypocrisy, and there were some things I was questioning. Is that God, or is that just someone who claims to be following God? And that was something I had to work out for my own. And they were so gracious and humble to allow that. And I always come back to, because we were homeschooled, I was able to recall a lot of home memories. And some of those memories involved them apologizing to us, the kids. That the parents were humble enough. They didn't apologize for parenting. They would apologize for saying, hey, I had an outburst of anger, or this isn't how we do it, or that isn't trusting God, and I responded in a way that wasn't. It was kind of like Moses, hit the rock instead of speak to it, right? And so just good intentions, but then realizing we're growing too. And so I remembered they were one of the few adults in my life that had come back to apologize to me for something, and they gave me the power to forgive or not. And that really spoke something to me. I was like, I don't think that's naturally very human. I mean, you're a parent, you understand sometimes how those conversations go, and that really spoke to me, that there was something real there informing them. So it gave me a boost, a confidence that the Holy Spirit must be real, because he's prompting conversations from them that are more godly, like, will you ask me, will you forgive me, you know, and will you help me grow in this way? I saw that from my godparents as well, and I was like just really impressed by that. And so that gave me more of a foundation to have a conversation with.
Right.
And because of homeschooling, that just was protected. And as I entered into dating and into marriage and then into parenthood, that foundation has remained there. I would try a lot of different things, and then God would help me narrow it down to, this is the way we're going to go. And that gave so much confidence, gave a lot of freedom. And during the lockdown, there were a lot of parents who were suddenly had the courage to have the words, I don't know what I'm doing, and now I have my kids all day long. I don't know how to do this. I'm supposed to be doing virtual school, and I just don't, can we do homeschool? And I was like, of course you can. Of course you can. You're already homeschooling. You're a parent. You're either doing it full-time or part-time, right? But there was a lot of insecurity. So during the lockdown, there was a lot of getting together with people who asked for it, that were like, I'm afraid. I don't know how to do this. It's elementary school. For the ones I was working with, a lot of it was elementary age. Even though you do see a lot more high school aged families turning to homeschooling right now. They're just turning. And for the first time that I remember, it's not the parents going, we need to do it differently. We need to regain that structure as a family. Instead, they're saying, my kids asked me, can we homeschool?
Wow.
I know.
That's huge.
It is.
But that also speaks volumes for the parents. And like what with your parents, that the dialogue was an open thing, because I mean, you know, as a parent, we feel like, well, it's our job, and we know what we know, and they don't.
Right.
And but having the respect for the younger one, and allowing them to express themselves, to have the freedom to express how they're feeling, and what they're thinking, and not criticizing, not trying to prove them wrong.
Right. Or even if you're not a narcissist, but you're just afraid that, I'm afraid you're going to go down the wrong path. I'm afraid for your soul. Like, there's a lot of fear tied up in that. And that's not really a faith response either. Right. And so I find myself in a position where I'm encouraging others verbally, and it's mutual. People are encouraging us back, with, it's about love, the entity of love, who love is. Right? And it's about listening, and it's about saying I need help, and and it's not about any fear response. It's about faith, and I have been coming back to that episode where Jairus came to Jesus and was like, heal my daughter. And Jesus had just spent a whole part of the Gospels with his disciples going, this is how you pray. Why don't you have more faith? This is how it works. You need to have faith. And he would praise people with faith. And then he saw this dad, and he didn't respond to him with, why don't you have faith? He was just, I get the feeling Jesus was enamored with Jairus and going, I love this, guys. Because Jairus goes, I believe, but help my unbelief. And I love Jesus' response as a model for us to be the same way. And in homeschooling, you're dealing with that 24/7, and you're building that relationship. We just had the homeschool convention about, the last weekend of June. That's when it was this year. And there was a main speaker, Todd Wilson. He's called the Smiling Homeschooler. He's hilarious. I want to have him back on a podcast episode. He goes, if math's not working out that day and you guys are at each other's throats going, why aren't you getting it? Or why aren't you getting reading? We've gone over phonics how many times, He goes, the relationship. It's the relationship. Pause the math for the day and get down into the relationship. Mend that first. Prioritize it.
So good.
It was. And that's been a real call to arms, if you will, to lay down these insecurities, bring them to God, and be like, I believe, but help my unbelief. And at convention, we come together and find people to connect with that help feed that.
Right. You know, it's interesting because I've had conversations in the last few days with several people about helping our children learn. And it's not a one thing fits everybody.
So true.
So we're going to come back and talk more about that in just a moment, but I want to encourage you that if you have a prayer need today, we'd love to pray with you. We've got wonderful prayer partners, and they love praying. And they will love on you. And if you haven't said yes to Yeshua, we hope that you'll do that, because then we will send you a Bible and you can begin to find out for yourself about how wonderful He is. We'll be right back. So, Dominique, I mean, one of the wonderful things I think about homeschooling is that you can, I mean, no two kids learn exactly the same way. And, you know, in public schools, you know, they've got classes full of people and they have to try to do what they can.
It's a system that is designed for a large mass of people.
Right. But within the home, and you know your children better than anyone, so you know their learning styles. Some kids, they learn quickly.
Yes.
Others, you know, maybe they need a little more. So tell us about that. I mean, it's like when you meet together with parents, and you're part of CAPE.
I am.
Tell us about that, what the CAPE means.
Yeah, CAPE stands for Christian Association of Parent Educators of New Mexico.
Okay.
So our website's cape-nm.org. And the great thing is you don't have to be a Christian to be at the convention or connect with people. Really is open to all parents of New Mexico. And our vision and mission is to help people and support them, inform them, and encourage them in their God-given task to raise up their children as disciples of Yeshua, right? And so there is a lot of support there. We have convention every year and a lot of different events. And when I was pregnant with my firstborn, I decided to go back and see how it had changed over the years. I'd been kind of out of the network for a little bit. And so I met Kathy Heckendorn, and we had a good laugh, and she's been around a long time. And I was impressed. I was able to talk with different people. You've got different vendors, different trainees, workshops, and they talk about this a lot. What's your child's learning style, right? And so you've got like the classical education, and you're drawing a lot from the classics there with the trivium and quadrivium, and that's really cool. And you've got other people who are very eclectic. That's more my style. This is what's working this month, and then we'll work on that. And then you've got the people a little more traditional. And then there are curriculums where it's all in a box, just like you would if you're enrolled in a different brick and mortar school. And so there's all these different ways, to address how did God design your child? Right? They've got a little bent toward that way. And you'll see it. Yes, we have different grades, if you will, of children's ages. You've got different ages, but you've also got different ways of learning. And so is your homeschool schedule all about sitting them down at a desk for 3 hours, or is it about out in nature and keeping a journal and doing the Charlotte Mason method and doing it more that way? Are they more artistic? Are they more hands-on mechanical? Are they more food or art? Right? Or mechanics. It's just a really neat adventure to see how God put these kids here on purpose. He knew what He was doing when He made them, and He knew what He was doing when He paired them up with your family. So if there's any encouragement we could definitely give, is God didn't make a mistake when He put that kid in your family.
You know, this little term just popped into my mind. It's probably way out there, but organic vocational.
Ooh. That's pretty good.
I mean, because literally, they're learning things that will be a part of whatever vocation that they're going to pursue.
They're learning life, right?
Yeah.
It's definitely a lifestyle, and it's neat. I really enjoy it, and you get to have so much say in mentoring your kids, right? So if the term teacher kind of takes you out for a wonky spin, well, rethink it as mentor.
Right.
And if that means you need a mentor too, which we all do, then go find one, right? And so, you can definitely reach out to any of the social media outlets of CAPE. That's what I'm helping to do. I'm part of the outreach team of CAPE, and If you are looking for a counselor or a mentor or anything, we've got those resources. That's what they're for, especially if you've got neurodivergent families. So a huge increase that's been happening over the years in that. And we have workshops specifically tailored. We have resources. We have people, how do you say that word? People who help diagnose and help give you the tools. Diagnostics, thank you, to help you with that here locally in New Mexico. And so we just help connect people like a hub, and that's been so helpful. And it was beautiful just as the social media person, just walk around and pray with people. And you see people who are just starting for the first time, they walk in, they got that deer in the headlights look, right? Like, I don't know what I'm doing, what's going on here? And then you get to see so many people love on them. And I followed up with some of them on the last day of the convention. I was like, so how are you feeling now? And this confidence of, I don't know all the things, but I don't have to. I now know the 3 things I am going to focus on, and I want to spend this time with my kid. And here's how we're going to do life in the next 6 months. I'm like, great, see you at Fall Family Retreat.
Yeah, because I mean, it's really, yes, you're homeschooling in your home environment, but you still, outside of that, there's so much that you can engage in. I know back when I was homeschooling, it was kind of a new thought, you know, and there wasn't all this support and extracurricular type things that are out there to just enlarge that experience. But like you said, other people that have been there, done that, that are open to say, hey, just give me a call. If you bump up into an issue, let's talk.
Exactly, and that's why CAPE will host things throughout the year. We've got a Back to the School picnic. This Saturday, I'm going to be on July 20th, I'm going to be at Heights Christian Church. They have a parenting workshop going on. They've invited us to have a table, another resource to help encourage and connect with people.
Great.
So you want that face-to-face, you want to talk about your particular issue, or if you're just looking for what's next, that's where we're going to be next, is at those things. And I would love to meet you. I know others would as well. And we can just sit down and pray together, because it's not all about, do I know how to teach the ABCs?
Yeah.
It's about, do I know how to invest into another eternal soul that God put into my family on purpose, and am I willing to grow with them? And I think that's the essence of homeschooling.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's really beautiful. So you're still homeschooling.
I am,
but
and I'm
now
not an atheist anymore. We've actually went full circle,
Thank you, Lord. Well, it gave you a lot of fuel for the days that you're living in and what children are being, impressed with. At least it's not coming through the school system, because you've got a little more say in things when you've got them at home. But
yeah, it's definitely the right fit for us and our family, for sure.
Yeah. And, and what would you say to people that, because some people say, well, I can't do it because I have a job. I mean, aren't there other alternatives? Like maybe there's homeschool moms that are willing to bring in other children to learn with their children?
Absolutely. It's not all on you, right? I don't know if you were part of a co-op back in the day, but I was when I was growing up, we did all sorts of extracurricular things, and other parents who would chip in and teach geography or biology. We did labs and stuff with other. So everyone pitches in different ways. You're not supposed to do it alone, right? So what I would encourage is first just be calm, be still before God, and hear what He's really saying, not what you're reacting to, right? Because we have that other voice in our head.
Yeah.
Well, this is what it means. Well, maybe not. Maybe it's us realizing God has tasked you with caring for this little one, and that needs to look a certain way for your family. So how can you be supported in that? And is your attitude going along with it, or is it fighting it because you think, it means I got to wear jean skirts and have a Bible on the coffee table? And well, no, maybe it's something else. There's so many other tools and resources. We use Bible Project all the time in my house, and we do Netflix and YouTube with part of our homeschooling. Like I said, I'm an eclectic homeschooler, right? And so we use all those resources. Yeah, no, it's very different. So start with just the perception of that first, right? And I'm sorry, your original question was to encourage. Yeah,
just to encourage others that may be looking at it that feel like they don't have a way, and actually they can go to outreach at cape-newmexico.org, right? To have somebody talk to them.
That would be the email to reach anyone, info@cape-nm.org, or if you go to any of our social medias and you DM there, that's fine. If you just go to the website, there are a lot of different ways to do homeschooling, absolutely. Yes, you have support.
Thank you so much. We've run out of time. We could talk for
Oh,
a
I'm
long
sorry.
time. No, that's good. Yeah. That's good. And I hope you've been encouraged today. And maybe you're a grandparent and you have time and you'd like to be able to do something like that for your grandchildren or maybe for other kids. So there's the possibilities are infinite. And today, again, I want to encourage you. The greatest gift ever given to us was Yeshua. And he loves us, and he wants to sit on the throne of your heart. Give us a call today, and let our prayer partners pray with you. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you. May he lift up his countenance upon you and give you his everlasting peace. Shalom, shalom.